I'd like to talk a bit about Chapter 3. Borderless world. Organization managers not isolated from international forces. Trade barriers have fallen. Where it used to be that there were restrictions, everyone wants to trade now. Communications faster, cheaper. Used to be that it would take a month for a letter to go around the world. Now your text can be there in seconds. Consumer tastes converge. People in China, South Africa, Argentina, United States all use the same products. A lot of difficulties and risk in a borderless world, but yet there are tremendous opportunities and benefits. As you can see, we are not the most globalized country, but we're up there. The global mindset, ability of managers to appreciate and influence individuals, groups, organizations, systems they represent. So now many organizations have very different social, cultural, political, and psychological characteristics because they're spread out around the globe. My cousin Jimmy headed up Owens Corning, which is a fiberglass maker here in the United States. He was a manager of their plant in South Korea for 6 years because they are a global company and have plants all over the world. Global mindset, cognitive, social, psychological. You have to realize that this is the environment of today. You have to deal with people that are different from you. You have to realize that you can have competitors that are halfway around the world, and you have to understand what is the competitive environment. The big changing international landscape, China. China came from being a backward country and now manufactures many products for United States companies, probably too many. It's hard to find something in a store that does not say made in China. China is finally starting to become a growing consumer market, primarily because the government kept out companies from dealing in China and still regulates those companies fairly heavily. Regulations, government policy make doing business in China very difficult. International landscape. The BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Emerging countries, India is a service giant, growing in software design engineering. Brazil is a country that is gaining the attention of American managers. So multinational companies now, the size and volume of some multinational companies actually is bigger than some small countries, and they are able to move assets from country to country. For some American companies, 25% or more of their profits actually come from outside the parent company. So multinational managers have to have a global perspective. Some ethnocentric companies place emphasis on their home countries, polycentric, oriented towards the markets, geocentric, world-oriented, and favor no specific country. 68% of Americans say other countries benefit the most from free trade. That we let too many products into the United States that have taken jobs away from American workers because you can produce something so much cheaper because in a place like China, somebody could get paid $5 a week. So if you look up some of the, it's almost, you can't look up the hourly wages because people get paid by the week and the amount of money is incredibly low. So many leaders insist that the economic benefits do flow back to the economy because of lower prices, expanded markets, increased profits, funds for innovation. And American shoppers often say they would pay higher prices, but they don't. Americans usually look for what is the best buy and don't look at the label to see where it's made. Excuse me. Approach to multinationals to do good. Corporations can alleviate problems and make large products by selling to the world's poor. More than 4 billion people at the lowest level, the bottom of the economic pyramid. So how do you get started internationally? You export. You transfer products to sell to foreign countries. Or you outsource, often called offshoring. Work activities are done in countries with cheap labor. Nike's famous for moving its factories from one country to another in order to be able to find the cheapest labor to make its shoes. Strategies for entering international area actually vary according to what is the politics of that area. You can license, franchise, directly invest, joint venture, all of which are good if you have a stable government and if the government recognizes business law and contracts. And then the international environment can be very different. You have to realize what is going on. It took McDonald's a year to figure out that Hindus in India did not eat beef. In Africa, labels on bottles include pictures to aid illiterate consumers. Chevy produced a car called Nova and tried to sell it in South America. And in Spanish, Nova means no go. So it wasn't exactly a big hit. You can see a lot of the key factors here in international environment. We'll probably talk about those at length in person. Everything from religion, demographics, government intervention, exchange rates have dramatic impacts on international trade. Economic development. Countries are categorized as either developed or developing based on their capita income. Government politics, market size, financial markets, infrastructure. All right. Competitiveness, we're not bad. Okay. Economic interdependence. Current economic crisis has highlighted how interconnected economies are around the world. The mortgage crisis in the United States caused banks around the world to crash and put perhaps over 40 or 50 countries into economic turmoil because we sold them bonds that were based on these mortgages that were impossible to complete. So we sold them bad paper. Misery index. So these countries who bought all this bad paper have had some significant problems. Greece belly up, Iceland belly up, Ireland belly up, Portugal belly up, Spain on the edge. The United States had difficulties. Political, legal environment. So if you operate in another country, are you going to lose your assets? Can you keep your earning power? Can you keep managerial control? It used to be very common in South America that once a capitalist company came into South America, built a big plant, built an energy station, built a mine, all of a sudden, boom, the government would nationalize it and take everything. So you have to watch out for riots, revolutions, civil disorders, and changes in government. Airlines now will not fly to Venezuela because they're in such economic tragedy because of the socialism that they can't pay the airlines the money that they owe them. Social culture, values, and behaviors that govern U.S. business do not always translate. So what you know as normal business practices here can be quite different in other countries. So people act differently in terms of how far they stand apart, whether they value individualism or collectivism, whether they feature the male or the female, And you have to know these things if you're going to do international business. Project values, dimensions, assertiveness, future orientation, gender, performance, human orientation. Okay, so this shows you in which way certain countries lean in terms of these particular qualities. High context, low context, how much they're willing to take risks. International trade alliances, the big one was the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. 23 nations in 1947 decided to set rules for fair trade so people wouldn't shoot each other and then come and shoot, excuse me, so people wouldn't cheat each other and then come and shoot each other. The World Trade Organization is basically the maturation of GATT into a permanent global institute which governs the rules of trade worldwide. The European Union, something everybody thought would never happen, the 1957 alliance to improve the economic social condition of members. This has evolved into the 27 nations that share a common currency and no longer check passports at borders and allow people from one country to work in another. North American Free Trade Agreement, U.S., Canada, Mexico into a single market. Lots of discussion as to whether that's a benefit or not. The European Union, all the countries that used to fight wars against each other every 20 or 30 years. I will send you some videos that will complement this discussion.